I lost my job for helping an old veteran with his car. The morning started like any other in our house, controlled chaos. The alarm rang at 6:30 a.m., but I'd already been awake for 10 minutes, staring at the ceiling, running numbers in my head. The smell of coffee drifted in from the kitchen, and I took a deep breath, savoring the only luxury I could afford every single day. Emily was already in the kitchen, moving like a well-oiled machine, coffee in one hand, packing Lily's lunch with the other, all while scrolling through her phone. Probably checking in on the latest neighborhood drama. She glanced at me, catching my mood instantly. 7 years of marriage will do that to you. No words needed, just a look. Lily sat at the table, her legs swinging under the chair, her cereal getting soggier by the second. She had that messy-haired, half-awake but still adorable look that made me want to freeze time. Just for a little while. "Dad, you remember what's happening in 2 weeks, right?" she asked, her spoon pausing halfway to her mouth. I forced a smile. "Of course, princess. I already have a surprise planned." It was a lie. A well-meaning, fatherly lie. She'd been talking about Disneyland for months, and I wanted to take her. But rent, bills, and my perpetually broken-down truck had other plans. I had exactly $585 in my savings, which wasn't even close to Disneyland money. Emily shot me a look over her coffee mug. She knew. Of course, she knew. I pushed the thought aside, grabbed my keys, kissed Emily, ruffled Lily's hair, and headed out the door. My truck, a '97 Ford F-150, coughed like a pack-a-day smoker before sputtering to life on the third try. One day, I'd fix it properly. Maybe after Disneyland. I pulled into Walker's Auto Repair, where I'd worked for 7 years. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. People in town knew me as the guy who wouldn't scam them into unnecessary repairs. That was rare in this business. Some mechanics saw customers as walking ATM machines. Me? I liked sleeping at night. Jack was already at the shop, leaning against the front desk, nursing his usual oversized gas station coffee. He'd been my best friend since high school. The kind of guy who'd bail you out of jail but also make fun of you for getting arrested in the first place. "You see the game last night?" Jack asked as I tossed my bag onto the workbench. "The Yankees totally blew it in the 9th. Yeah, brutal. Not as brutal as the brakes on that Subaru from yesterday. Pretty sure they were held together by prayers and zip ties." Jack snorted. Some people shouldn't be allowed to own cars. The day went as it always did: oil changes, tire rotations, the occasional engine diagnostic that turned into a 6-hour nightmare. Around noon, a guy rolled in with a Honda Civic that sounded like it had swallowed a chainsaw. I knew it was the timing belt before he even finished explaining. "I can get it done by tomorrow," I told him, scribbling on the work order. "You're looking at about $750. He winced but nodded. "Gotta do it. Car won't run otherwise." And so it went, one job after another, money trickling in just fast enough to keep life from falling apart. By the time evening rolled around, I was running on fumes. But I picked up an extra job, a full transmission replacement. Brutal work, but it paid well. And every dollar counted. Jack wandered over, leaning against the toolbox, watching me work. "You good? You've been going non-stop." I wiped my hands on a rag. "Yeah, just trying to make some extra cash." Jack didn't push. He knew me too well. Just nodded and took a sip of his now cold coffee. "Well, if you're gonna work yourself to death, at least do it for something good." And I was. Because in 2 weeks, my little girl was expecting the birthday of a lifetime. And there was no way I was letting her down. The workday was coming to an end, and I was running on caffeine and muscle memory when an old Ford Crown Victoria rolled into the lot, coughing like it had a lifetime of regrets. The thing was a relic, faded blue paint, a cracked windshield, and rust nibbling at the edges. If a car could tell war stories, this one had seen its fair share of battles. It looked like the kind of vehicle that had driven cross-country on a prayer and a tank of questionable gas. The headlights were fogged over, and the bumper had more dents than a used tin can. The driver's door creaked open, and out stepped an old man, maybe pushing 70. He moved slow, like every joint had a complaint, but there was something solid about him, like a guy who'd seen a lot, but wasn't about to let the world break him. His jacket was worn, frayed at the sleeves, but the Marine Corps patch on his shoulder looked untouched, like it was the one thing time wasn't allowed to mess with. He patted his pocket, pulled out a small wad of cash, and started counting. I recognized the look. The way his fingers hesitated over every bill, weighing the numbers in his head. It was the look of someone hoping the price of a repair didn't mean skipping dinner. He exhaled, then looked up. Battery light came on, and I'm losing charge. Got a long way to go, and I don't think she'll make it. You mind taking a look? Ain't got much, but I'll pay what I can. Jack, who had been half asleep against the toolbox, stood up straighter. He gave me a look, the kind that didn't need words. This wasn't just any customer. Let's see what we've got, I said, grabbing a rag and wiping the grease off my hands. I popped the hood and took a glance. Didn't take long to spot the problem. The alternator belt had slipped right off. No break, no tears, just loose enough to cause a headache. A 5-minute fix. I shot a glance toward the old man, who was now rubbing his hands together, either from the cold or nerves. His fingers were rough, calloused, the kind of hands that had spent decades working. Maybe fixing fences, building houses, or turning wrenches like me. You heading somewhere important? I asked. He nodded. Yeah. Gotta get to my boy. Haven't seen him in a few years. Lives out in Kansas. Long drive ahead. I felt that one. Hard. Life had a funny way of getting between people who should have been close. I thought about Lily, about the way time slipped through my fingers every time she blew out another birthday candle. Someday, she'd be grown, maybe living halfway across the country, and I'd be the old guy trying to scrape together gas money just to see her face. Jack wandered over, peering under the hood, then at the old man. You know, he said, scratching his chin, I had a buddy in the Marines. Toughest guy I ever met. Carried half the squad on his back in Iraq. The old man grinned, slow and knowing. We look out for our own. That's how we were trained. Jack nodded. Yeah, well. Consider this one on us. Mr. Thompson opened his mouth, but I waved him off before he could protest. Let's get you back on the road. I grabbed my tools, tightened the belt, checked the tension, and fired up the engine. It purred, well, as much as an ancient Ford could purr. The old guy just stood there for a moment, watching, then nodded, eyes a little shinier than before. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a crisp 20, and tried to hand it to me. I shook my head. Put that toward gas. Kansas is a long haul. Mr. Thompson hesitated, then tucked the bill back in his pocket. You boys ever need anything, you let me know. Marines don't forget. Jack clapped him on the shoulder. We won't. Safe travels, sir. And just like that, the long day didn't feel so long anymore. I barely had time to wipe my hands on my rag before I felt the weight of a glare burning a hole through me. I turned just in time to see Robertson, my boss, storming across the shop floor, his face an alarming shade of red. He wasn't a big guy, but he carried himself like he owned the air around him. Stiff posture, chest puffed out, like a guy who thought yelling counted as management. Maybe I'm seeing things, he bellowed, making sure everyone in the shop was watching. Did you just fix that car and not charge a dime? I knew this was coming, but I still hoped he'd have the decency to call me into his office instead of making a full-blown spectacle out of it. It was a quick fix, boss. Just a slipped belt. Took me 5 minutes. Robertson threw his hands in the air like I'd just confessed to robbing the place. 5 minutes? 5 minutes is still money out of this business, Mike. Jack, who had been pretending to reorganize a perfectly organized toolbox, gave me a sideways glance, ready to step in if this got worse. Boss, the guy was a vet, on his way to see his son. He barely had gas money, I said, keeping my voice level. Didn't feel right to charge him for something that small. Robertson's jaw clenched so hard I thought his teeth might shatter. Didn't feel right? This is a business, not a charity. A few of the younger mechanics had stopped working, watching the show unfold. Even the guy at the front desk was peeking through the glass window like it was free entertainment. Look, I get it, I said, holding my hands up. But we do pro bono work all the time. The lady last week who couldn't afford the battery replacement? The single mom with the busted alternator? You didn't yell about those. Those were different. Robertson snapped. I approved those. You didn't ask. You just took it upon yourself to hand out freebies. That one hit a nerve. I've been here 7 years, Robertson. 7 years. You really think I'm out here stealing from the shop? His lip curled, and I knew where this was going before he even said it. If you can't follow the rules, then maybe you don't belong here, Mike. I let out a sharp laugh, not because it was funny, but because I still couldn't believe he was serious. You're really gonna fire me over this? Over a 5-minute fix? He folded his arms across his chest, all self-righteous and smug. Pack your things. You're done here. The shop fell silent. Even the distant hum of the radio seemed to cut out. I swallowed down every curse word fighting to get out, every instinct telling me to let this guy have it. Instead, I nodded, unclipped my work badge, and shrugged off my grease-stained company jacket. I set it on the workbench like it was a relic of a life I was suddenly done with. Jack shook his head, muttering something under his breath, but he didn't say anything. Not yet. I grabbed my toolbox, gave one last glance around the shop, and walked out the door. As I stepped outside, the cool evening air hit me like a slap to the face. 7 years of loyalty meant nothing. No severance, no warning, just a public humiliation and a shove out the door. I climbed into my truck, gripping the wheel tighter than necessary. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably Emily wondering what time I'd be home for dinner. I wasn't sure what I was going to tell her. And just like that, everything changed in an instant. The drive home felt longer than usual, even though traffic was light. Maybe it was the weight in my chest, or the way my grip tightened on the wheel every time I replayed the last hour in my head. Fired. Just like that. 7 years gone, over a 5-minute fix. I knew Robertson was a tough boss, but I never thought he'd actually pull the trigger on something this petty. The sun was starting to dip below the rooftops by the time I pulled into the driveway. The porch light was already on, even though it wasn't dark yet, Emily's little habit of always turning it on early, like a beacon welcoming me home. Normally, that warmed me. Tonight, it just made my stomach twist. I sat there for a minute, fingers drumming on the wheel, trying to shake off the frustration before stepping inside. No use bringing it home with me. But then again, how the hell was I supposed to hide something like this? When I pushed open the door, Emily was in the kitchen, peeling an apple with that old paring knife she refused to replace. The smell of dinner lingered in the air, something with garlic and butter, my favorite. She turned, brows pulling together when she saw me. "You're home early," she said, setting down the knife. "Something happen?" I kicked off my boots, buying a few extra seconds. "Yeah. Something happened." She wiped her hands on a dish towel, moving closer. "Mike. What's going on? The words felt heavy, like saying them out loud would make it all the more real. But there was no sense dragging it out. I don't work at the shop anymore. She blinked. Once. Twice. What? What do you mean? I let out a slow breath, ran a hand over my face. Robertson fired me. Right there, in front of the whole shop. Told me to pack my things and get out. Emily's eyes darkened, her arms crossing over her chest. Fired you? For what? You've been working there for years. For fixing a car without charging the guy. A veteran. He barely had gas money, Em. Her lips parted, then pressed into a thin line. She knew me. Knew I wasn't some reckless idiot throwing away a paycheck. So, that's it? No severance, no nothing, she asked. Nothing, I said. Just a couple of dirty rags and a toolbox full of busted knuckles. Before she could respond, a small voice cut through the tension. Daddy. Lily came barreling into the room, her tiny feet making that quick patter against the hardwood floor. She threw her arms around my waist, squeezing tight. You're home early. Did you get my present yet? I crouched down, brushing a few strands of hair out of her face. What present, sweetheart? She giggled, bouncing on her toes. For my birthday. Disney, remember? You said you had a surprise. My stomach dropped. Emily inhaled sharply behind me. I forced a smile, tapping the tip of her nose. Of course, baby. I remember. And I promise, I'm gonna make it happen. The words came out easy, smooth, but inside, I was scrambling. My savings barely covered rent. No job meant no income. No income meant no Disneyland, no birthday surprise, no anything. Lily beamed, completely unaware of the storm brewing behind my eyes. Yay! I can't wait. She darted back toward the living room, leaving me kneeling there, hands resting on my knees, staring at the floor. Emily crouched beside me, her voice softer now. Mike, what are we gonna do? I exhaled slowly, trying to keep the panic at bay. I don't know yet. But I'll figure something out. I have to. And that was the truth. I had no clue how, but I wasn't about to let my little girl down. Not now. Not ever. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. At first, I thought maybe Emily had set an early alarm on my phone by mistake, or maybe some spam caller had gotten a hold of my number. But when I finally rolled over and checked, I saw Jack's name lighting up the screen. I groaned, rubbing my eyes before answering. Dude, it's barely 7. Whatever it is, can't it wait until I've had coffee? Jack's voice practically crackled through the speaker. Mike, you need to check Facebook. Like, right now. I frowned, sitting up. What? Why? Just do it, man. Trust me. You're famous. Famous? That woke me up faster than caffeine ever could. I swiped open my phone, clicked the Facebook app, and the first thing I saw was a post with my name plastered all over it. My stomach tightened as I clicked on the link Jack had sent. It was a video. A shaky, low-quality clip recorded from across the shop, showing the exact moment Robertson fired me. His voice rang out clear as day, full of that condescending rage, while I stood there, barely holding my frustration together. Fired for helping a veteran, the caption read. Is this how we treat good people now? I scrolled down. The post already had thousands of likes, comments, and shares. People were furious. Asterisk, this is unbelievable. That guy should be ashamed of himself. Asterisk. Asterisk, you're telling me a guy gets fired for doing the right thing? Where is this shop? I'm never taking my car there again. Asterisk. Somebody get this man a new job ASAP. Honest mechanics don't grow on trees. My heart pounded. I clicked the comments, scrolling through dozens, no, hundreds, of people all saying the same thing. They were on my side. They were calling out Robertson, calling for boycotts, demanding I be reinstated. And then I saw it. A second post. This one from a customer I'd helped a few months ago, a woman whose transmission had blown while she was on a road trip with her kids. She'd barely had the cash to cover the basics, so I'd done the work at cost, no markup, just to help her get home. She had written, Mike's the kind of mechanic who actually cares. He once fixed my car when I had no other options. What happened to him is ridiculous. I hope he gets something better. That post was taking off, too. And beneath it? Another one, from an older man who'd been coming to the shop for years. And then another. And another. I ran a hand over my face, trying to process all of it. This wasn't just some small-town gossip, this was going viral. I hadn't even been awake for 10 minutes, and already, the internet had turned me into some kind of working-class hero. Emily walked into the room, still in her robe, holding a mug of coffee. Why is your phone going nuts? I handed it to her, still stunned. Apparently, I'm a viral sensation. She squinted at the screen, scrolling for a few seconds before her eyes widened. Mike. This is huge. People are talking about boycotting Robertson's shop. They're furious. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. A text from another old customer. Hey man, just saw what happened. If you need anything, I got connections at a few garages. Call me. Then another. Dude, this is insane. You're trending on Twitter. And then a call from a number I didn't recognize. And another text. It didn't stop. All day long, my phone kept lighting up. Friends, old coworkers, even people I barely remembered reaching out to tell me they had my back. By noon, Jack called again. Bro, have you seen the latest? Robertson put out a statement. I paused mid-sip of my now cold coffee. A statement? Yeah. Damage control, obviously. He's saying the video was taken out of context, and that you violated company policy. But nobody's buying it. The comments are tearing him apart. I didn't know whether to laugh or throw up. This was getting way bigger than I ever imagined. Emily set a hand on my arm. Mike. This might actually be a good thing. I exhaled slowly, trying to let that sink in. Maybe she was right. Maybe this wasn't just a disaster, it was an opportunity. And I had no idea what would happen next. By the next morning, the whole thing had snowballed into something even bigger. It wasn't just social media anymore. A local journalist had caught wind of the story and decided to run a piece about it. Mechanic fired for helping veteran, community fights back. I read the headline twice, still trying to wrap my head around it. There was even a picture of me from the shop, probably pulled from my Facebook profile. The article detailed everything, the viral video, the fallout, and how people were now refusing to take their business to Robertson's shop. Emily nudged my arm as I scrolled through the comments. People are really standing up for you, Mike. This is incredible. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I hesitated, then picked up. Mike speaking. A familiar voice rumbled through the line. Son, it's Henry Thompson. I sat up straighter. Mr. Thompson. Good to hear from you. Everything all right with the car? He chuckled. Car's running fine, thanks to you. But that's not why I'm calling. I was at the shop yesterday, on my way back from visiting my son. Your buddy Jack told me what happened and showed me the video. Damn shame, but I gotta tell you, I've never seen people rally around someone like this. I exhaled, shaking my head. Yeah, it's been a lot. I don't even know what to do with all of it. Henry's voice softened. Listen, kid. I've been around a long time, and I know good people when I see them. And I know how the world works. But don't you worry about a thing. We take care of our own. I wasn't even sure what that meant, but before I could ask, he added, just hang in there. Something tells me you're gonna be just fine. By noon, the fallout from the article was starting to show. Jack called again, sounding way too excited for a guy who usually needed 3 cups of coffee just to function. Dude, Robertson's shop is a ghost town, he said. I just drove by. No cars in the bays, nobody at the counter. Even the usual guys who always hang around the lot are gone. People are actually boycotting him. I whistled low. Didn't think it would go that far. Jack laughed. Well, it did. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't enjoying it. Later that afternoon, I ran out to grab a few groceries. Still trying to act normal when life was anything but. As I reached for a carton of milk, a man cleared his throat behind me. Mike, right? I turned, brow furrowing. Yeah. The guy looked like he belonged in a boardroom, pressed shirt, expensive watch, the whole 9 yards. He extended a hand. Tom Gallagher. I've been following your story. I've got a buddy who's opening a new auto shop and needs a good mechanic. Figured you might be interested. I blinked. You're serious? He smiled. Absolutely. You deserve better than working for someone like Robertson. Here, he pulled a business card from his pocket and handed it over. Give him a call. He's expecting you tomorrow. I stared at the card like it might disappear if I blinked. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it, Tom said. And show up. As he walked off, I turned the card over in my hand. A new shop. A fresh start. That night, just as I was sitting down to dinner, my phone rang again. Henry's voice rumbled through the line. Hope you're free tomorrow, son. I've got a surprise for you. I grinned, even though I had no idea what he was talking about. Should I be worried? He chuckled. Not at all. Just be ready. Emily glanced at me from across the table. What was that about? I set my phone down, still staring at the business card in my other hand. I don't know yet, I admitted. But something tells me tomorrow's going to be interesting. And just like that, my life was changing faster than I could keep up with. The next morning, my phone buzzed before my alarm even had the chance. Henry's name flashed on the screen. Hope you're up, kid, he said when I answered. Meet me at Joe's Diner in an hour. Got someone I want you to meet. Joe's Diner was one of those places that hadn't changed in 50 years, red leather booths, checkered floors, and a waitress who called everyone, hun. The kind of place where you order coffee, and they just keep refilling it until you leave or die of a caffeine overdose. When I walked in, Henry was already sitting at a booth in the back, nursing a cup of black coffee. Next to him sat another man, older but still built like he could wrestle a bear and win. His buzz cut was silver, but he had the same sharp eyes as Henry. Henry waved me over. Mike, meet my buddy, Frank Carter. Marine, just like me. And more importantly, a guy with a hell of an opportunity for you. Frank extended a hand, his grip firm, the kind that told you he meant business. Heard a lot about you, son. Henry doesn't vouch for just anyone. I slid into the booth, still trying to figure out what was happening. Appreciate that, sir. Henry smirked. Frank's son owns a chain of auto shops. Just opened a brand new one on the edge of town. Need someone to run it. I blinked. Run it? As in, manage the whole shop? Frank nodded. My boy's been looking for the right person, someone who knows their way around cars and, more importantly, knows how to treat people right. I saw the video, read the story. You've got a good head on your shoulders. I leaned back, exhaling. Wow. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Henry grinned. Say yes, kid. We don't let our own fall. Frank pulled a card from his pocket and slid it across the table. My stomach flipped when I saw it. The same exact business card Tom Gallagher had given me yesterday. But this time, under the company name, the title read General Manager. I stared at it, my mind racing. Yesterday, this was a job offer for a mechanic position. Now it was an offer to run the whole damn place. Frank chuckled. Yeah, I heard my son's buddy ran into you at the grocery store. Small world. The difference is, now we're making it official. You in? I swallowed hard, gripping the card. This is a lot. I mean, I was expecting to start over, but this? Henry patted my shoulder. It's what you deserve, kid. There wasn't really a decision to make. This was everything I didn't even know I was looking for. I nodded. Yeah. I'm in. Frank smiled. Good. He's expecting you at the shop today. Go check it out. An hour later, I pulled up to the shop. And when I say shop, I mean complex. This wasn't just a garage, it was a full-scale, state-of-the-art facility. The kind of place where every tool was top of the line, the floors were spotless, and the lobby looked like it belonged in a tech startup, not an auto shop. I barely had time to take it all in before a man in his late 30s walked out to greet me. Mike. Good to finally meet you. He extended a hand. I'm Adam Carter. My dad and Henry have been talking about you non-stop. I shook his hand, still feeling a little like I'd stepped into an alternate reality. Appreciate the opportunity. Adam gestured toward the massive glass windows looking into the main service area. I know you probably weren't expecting all this, but I've seen your work. More importantly, I've seen how you treat people. That's what I need here. Someone who gets it. He crossed his arms, studying me. We're offering a salary 3 times what you made at Robertson's shop, full benefits, and plenty of room for growth. What do you say? I let out a breath, shaking my head with a stunned laugh. Man, if you keep throwing numbers like that at me, I might start thinking this is a prank. Adam grinned. Not a prank. Just people recognizing what you're worth. I glanced around the shop again. The place was buzzing with activity, mechanics who actually looked like they enjoyed being there, customers in a sleek waiting area instead of crammed into a dingy room with vending machines from the 90s. It was everything a shop should be. I turned back to Adam and nodded. All right. Let's do this. And just like that, I had a new job. A better job. A real fresh start. When I pulled into the driveway that evening, the weight of everything that had happened in the last 48 hours finally hit me. I sat in the truck for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, trying to wrap my head around it. A week ago, I was fixing cars at a shop where my work was taken for granted. Now, I was about to walk inside and tell my wife our lives had just changed for the better. Emily was in the kitchen when I stepped inside, stirring something on the stove. The smell of homemade chili filled the house, comfort food, her way of unwinding. She glanced up, and the moment she saw my face, she knew something was different. What happened? She asked, setting down the spoon. I leaned against the counter, exhaling. You might want to sit down for this. By the time I finished telling her everything, about Henry, Frank, the job offer, she had tears streaming down her cheeks. But for the first time in a long time, they weren't tears of worry. Mike, she whispered, shaking her head. I can't believe this. This is everything we needed. I wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. Yeah, Em. We're gonna be okay. 2 weeks later, it was Lily's birthday. If I thought the past few weeks had been surreal, watching my little girl blow out the candles on her cake knowing what was coming next took the cake, literally. All right, kiddo, I said, grinning as she licked frosting off her fingers. Got one last surprise for you. Her eyes widened. Another one? I pulled an envelope from my pocket and slid it across the table. She ripped it open, her little fingers fumbling with the paper. The second she saw the logo, big, round ears, unmistakable, she shrieked so loud I was sure the neighbors would think we were under attack. Disneyland? I laughed, nodding. Yep. This weekend. You, me, Mom. We're going. Lily launched herself at me, hugging me so tight I almost lost my balance. I knew it. I knew you'd make it happen. Emily was watching us with a smile, wiping at her eyes. You really pulled it off. Told you, I said. We're gonna be okay. A few weeks later, I was having coffee with Henry at Joe's Diner. He sat across from me, stirring a packet of sugar into his cup, looking more amused than usual. So, he said, you hear about Robertson? I smirked, taking a sip of my coffee. Yeah. Couldn't hold on after the boycott. Shops shut down. Guess people don't like it when you fire good employees for doing the right thing. Henry nodded. Poetic justice. I leaned back in the booth, watching as the waitress topped off our cups. You know, Henry, I always believed that if you put good out into the world, it comes back to you. I just didn't think it'd happen this fast. He chuckled, raising his cup in a mock toast. Some people call it karma. I call it taking care of our own. I clinked my cup against his. To that, I'll drink. Henry grinned. By the way, got something for you. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box, sliding it across the table. I raised a brow. What's this? Just open it. Inside was a keychain. But not just any keychain, one shaped like a wrench, engraved with my name and the words, keep turning the right bolts. I laughed, shaking my head. You didn't have to do this, Henry. Yeah, I did. Consider it a reminder. You did the right thing, and it paid off. I turned the keychain over in my hand, feeling the weight of it. Thanks, Henry. He waved a hand. Don't mention it. Now drink your coffee before it gets cold. And just like that, my life had changed. But one thing remained the same, I was still the same guy, just in a better place. And for the first time in a long time, I was exactly where I was supposed to be.